Hey everybody, welcome to the channel, glad to have you here. Today we are doing another army tutorial video. This time we are lining the Beastmen here up against the greenskins. And when thinking about the greenskins and the Lord choice, I think Morgar is definitely the way to go. Because when you look at Chaos Spawn down here, and that is the key portion of Morgar, these Chaos Spawn, they have high weapon strength, but non-armor piercing, and they also have poison attacks, and they do cause fear. So these are all great things against the greenskins, who are primarily low-armored units. And so that's why I'm bringing these guys. And Morgar is just a very solid choice all around. I'm going to get rid of Foe Seeker because I never use it anyways, and I'm going to put on this Stave of Ruinous Corruption. More Chaos Spawn spawns are always good. To go with him, I'm going to pick a hero. Always good to have a mage. And I'm actually going to bring the Brave Shaman of Wild. I've been using this guy more and more. Just kind of to change things up. And he does have this Bestial Surge here. And so that's going to give everybody on the map plus 10% vigor. So basically, if you're casting the whole game, none of your characters, none of your army is going to be tired. And so that's going to have a huge effect on their combat abilities and their effectiveness. So I think that's a really good thing, especially for the Beastmen who need to be fast. And if you cast the spell on the enemy line before you charge, your entire main line will get plus 25% speed. And that'll make, since they're moving faster, they will do more charge damage, I believe, is how that works. So, I think just very good ability there. And for this guy, I'm actually just going to be bringing Devolve and Viletide. Viletide is actually a pretty decent spell. When it explodes, it disrupts an entire formation, so really good against if there's any goblin archers. Basically, you just toss them, and they have to spend all that time running back to their position before they can fire again. So it can be great for disrupting like handgunners or really any ranged threat. And it does decent damage, not the best damage, but it does proc your Bestial Surge, so it is helpful in that way. The other one I will be bringing is Devolve, and this -8 leadership is fantastic, and you do some damage. And it's great against the greenskins because they tend to blob up near the end of a fight. So if you hit their leadership, charge them with some Chaos Spawn, most likely they're going to rout, unless they have like a Lord nearby. So definitely a good set of spells there. And I'm not going to give them any scrolls here. We'll get some Spearmen here, never a bad choice, protect the flanks. We will also get some Centaurs, the great weapons. And these guys will be great for just rear charging the enemy and dealing with Boar Boy Biggins. They will win in that fight, especially if you support them with an Ungor Spearherd. And they're just such a great unit that you can't really afford not to bring them as the Beastmen. We will be bringing one unit of Ungor Raiders, great for sniping out giants, for hitting goblin archers who have just been exploded by Viletide. And just a really good unit, I think, all around for their price point. They do have stock, which is always good. And seeing as the current trend of the greenskins is going towards savage orcs, we're going to bring a core of units that the savage orcs are going to have a really hard time against. So we're going to be bringing 4 Bestigor Herd. These guys are a good unit. You can see they have amazing offensive stats, or just decent offensive stats here, 35. And they have a decent charge bonus of 32. And with a armor piercing damage of 30. So just a solid frontline unit. And they're going to do well against savage orcs because savage orcs do not have armor piercing damage. So they're going to hold up much longer than, say, a Gore Herd that I like to bring in my other battles. And we will we'll fill out the rest of our army here with Gore Herd. Just kind of delay the enemy until we can spawn Chaos Spawn in their back lines, essentially. And they're just a solid unit. Can't do that, so let's do 2 of these. And there you go. So you've got Morgar here, who will just go up the middle and wreck some face. You have a Beastmen of Wild to keep everybody up and moving. You have some spears for large threats and just for fodder. You have a main line of 4 best gores with 5 gore herd on the flanks and in support. You have 1 Ungor Raider for large targets, and you have 2 Centaurs with great weapons for hopping around the flanks. So yeah, of course, a very melee-focused, very rush-heavy army, which I think suits the Beastmen's playstyle. And we will go hop into a game I played with this army in my replays. So let's go see. Got to make sure I get the right one here. Yeah. So here you can see my main line of gore herds with my Beastmen of Wild and my spearmen. My opponent brought what I think is a pretty decent army here against the Beastmen. We'll pause it here. You can see it is led by none other than Wurzag, the dancing great green prophet. And he is being supported by 2 of these goblin big bosses. He does have some spider riders in the back, some spider rider archers over here on the flank. He has 2 orc boar boy biggins with the 2nd goblin big boss, keeping the morale up. Definitely good. And then of course he has a main line here of savage orcs with 3 units of savage orc biggins behind him. In the front line is some fodder in the form of night goblins and goblins. And they're going to be preventing the charge from some of my units. And we'll get started here. You can see my Beastmen of the Wild. Centaurs heading out to the flanks to deal with the Spider Rider threat. And I'm also going to be sending these Ungor Raiders here off to that side as well. I don't want them to be getting free shots in on my Bestigor herd, because they will be kind of the key to winning this battle. You can see I'm initially set up in this long line with the Bestigor interchanged with the Gore herd. But once I see his build and his kind of like column formation here, because he has 2 rows of 3, I'm going to be moving my Bestigor into a line of their own and using the Gore herd kind of in support and to flank. You can see my Ungor spear herd running off to the flank as well. One thing to be aware of on this map is you can see this is marsh, so in shallow water, small units have the negative 80% melee attack, just like large units do in the forest. So something to be aware of on this map. The one player starts with the high ground, and the other player starts with these kind of like marsh lines that he can use to his advantage. You can see lots of posturing. I'm just going to let him come to me because Morgar's ability is charging. And with some goblins on the field, that's going to be a really quick unit that you can crush very quickly, and then use to spawn Chaos Spawn. Because one of the problems is it's hard to get a unit below 20%, but with goblins, it's very easy. So here we go. We'll have our first sets of fire exchanged. Of course, my units were stocked, so he had no idea they were there. So I'm able to get some cheeky first shots in. You can see a Vile Tide coming in. Not doing too much, but doing some on these guys. For 5 mana, it's not the worst thing in the world. See these goblin spider riders coming around the flanks as well. Here come my Bestigor, forming up right in the shallow water. Definitely a mistake there. You can see I'm doing some good damage to these 4 goblin spider riders. As these poor fodder goblins are going to be charging in. You can see the orc boar boy biggins coming around the flank, and these spiders trying to thread the needle through the middle. I notice he is meat shielding, so I'm going to kind of meat shield my own gore herd through here and charge these guys. Prevent the charge of his, so I can get my own charge across the board. Here, his goblin big boss has come in on my spearmen, kind of just to hold them up so his boar boy biggins can get around the flanks. Here comes some spider riders are going to take a dive at my Ungor raiders. Definitely a mistake while I'm so focused on this main line engagement. And you can see here, I got all my bestigors in without getting a charge off on me, which is ideal. See, I'm kind of outnumbering him here, or I'm a little wider than him here. So my bestigors are going to be coming in, chopping these savage orcs to pieces. You can see tons of units in reserve. Morgur is going to head in there, and this Bray Shaman of Wild is kind of going to be holding up on this side. My Centaurs, still, I don't want to commit them too early. I'm waiting for these Orc Boar Boy Biggins. But my Goblin Big Boss is hunting after my Bray Shaman, so I do have to respond to that. And I'm going to be sending some Gore Herd over here to help. You can see Apocalyptic Vision here, procced in the middle. So that's going to make these guys even more devastating, and you can see already routing the front line of fodder. I believe, oh yeah, they're Wah coming down from Wurzag. Here come the Centaur, or the Orc Boar Boy Biggins. And I'm going to be, got a free charge from the Orc Boar Boy Biggins there. And my Gore Herd are going to be coming into support. So you can see my Centaurs with great weapons getting put down because they didn't get that charge there. I was so focused on this kind of front line. Bray Shaman of Beast here is going to get Effigy of Degitted. Definitely would have been good to use that earlier. But you can see getting some nice damage on him. And I do route the Goblin Big Boss on this side. This Goblin Big Boss is not doing too well against my Spearmen. And he's forgetting to micro these guys away from my Gore Herd. So they're actually going to do pretty decent in that fight. See my Bestigor tanking these guys out. Are losing, but they have definitely spent a lot more money here in the front line than I have. So you do kind of expect these guys to not make it through to the end, because it's an 800 gold unit and a 550 gold unit. So definitely getting punished on that side. But my Bestigor over here, with the support of Morgur, are doing pretty well. And I'm casting Devolve here. You can see it's going to route off these units. And here, of course, comes the Chaos Spawn. So I'm going to spawn one Chaos Spawn and then turn these poor Savage Orcs here into Chaos Spawn as well. We can watch that happen. As they're trying to run away, and the poor guys are all going to die. And so you can see nicely cleaned up this side, but he is winning over here. You can see Vile Tide coming down, delaying this, getting a charge with my Gore Herd. You can see Wurzag over here. And these Bestigors are finally going down. And Wurzag is chasing my Bray Shaman. So I definitely can't let that happen. I'm going to be casting as many spells as I can while he's still up. You can see my Chaos Bond got in over here. And now these guys are cleaning up some of the routing units. And now I can kind of turn all of my attention over here and onto Wurzag. My Ungor Raider still in the fight. There you can see Vile Tide coming down, and between them and the Chaos Spawn, they are going to rout. And this is a big problem late in the game. You can see just all these Savage Orcs just getting fear routed off the field. And now my Gore Herd are going to get in here against Wurzag. And with his low armor, they're going to do pretty well. But he does have that plus 12 physical resistance buff. So something to be worried about. And you can see here he left his Boar Biggins in so long that I was able to clean them up with some spear support. And now I kind of just have this death blob operating. And as long as I can keep Wurzag here, I'm feeling pretty confident. You can see the Spider Riders running out of ammo. Hard for those guys to be cost effective, and these guys running low as well. So as long as I can get Wurzag off the field, I feel like it's going to be a pretty good day. But you can see those arrows coming in. He does have all of his units coming back, but Wurzag is not doing so hot. The Beast Rush is real. always sad when you have him on the board. He can't dance. Just getting eaten by some Chaos Spawn. And remember, I do have 2 more Chaos Spawn summons. So I'm kind of just operating in this big old death blob here. I can't catch these guys. That's not going to happen. Because you can see all my Centaurs are being chased off the field. These guys over here are cleaning up this Goblin Big Boss, though. And the remains of these Ungor Raiders are opening fire on these Boar Biggins that are trying to get around my flank a little bit. I do catch them with the spears. Just one of them, it looks like. Come on, Raiders. Yeah, so we get 1 volley in. My Centaurs and Bestigors are going to charge these guys as well. Man, those Boar Boy Biggins are just so cost effective, it is hard to beat them. But you can see balance of power far in my favor here. And Wurzag does shatter, so that's not going to go too well for him. My Death Blob's still kind of running around. I should be turning these guys around soon. Because I realize he's shattered and I don't really have anything to catch him here. And I don't want to leave my Spearmen, who are currently fighting off some Spiders, to be left too isolated. You can see he does have a number of units coming back, but all very low health. 30 units over here, 25, 22. So a surprising number of unit models, but not too many, not too much hit points. So here I drop Devolve on this guy, just to help make sure these Ungor Spear Herd are not being like surrounded and routed off. You saw that was kind of what was making them waver, was being charged in the back by the 2nd unit. And so when I was able to cast Devolve, route off that unit, this unit stayed in the battle because all of a sudden it was encouraged by the enemies running away. So great game to my opponent there. Definitely liked the build. Always cool to see the Goblin Spider Rider Archers, and you can see they did pretty well. 50 kills each on those guys is definitely respectable. You can see, yeah, some of these Savage Orc Biggins just not getting very many kills up there, and in against the Bestigor herd. It's just very hard for them to be cost effective against not large units. You can see the Orc Boar by Biggins all doing pretty well. The fodder line being fodder. But I was just kind of like, I had so much mass here and so many units that he wasn't able to get the job entirely done. Yeah, you can see these Bestigors all doing really well. 64, 123, 88, 59, and on Savage Orcs, who were being buffed up by Wurzag. So that's a whopping like 42% resistance or something like that, that those Savage Orcs were getting. And so you can see they still did a good job, even against so many numbers there. My Ungor Raiders here kind of doing their job, doing some early damage against the Spider Riders, becoming a focus for the enemy. They really wanted to get rid of them, which was good, and just kind of shooting into the flanks of the Savage Orcs is always helpful. And you can see these Gore Herd just not doing very well. Yeah, they were pitted into weird fights. A couple of them were used as meat shields, and a couple were going up against the Orc Boar Boy Biggins and other such kind of troops. So not the ideal fight for really any of them. You can see these Ungor Spear Herds doing pretty well against the Spider Riders and other such units. Yeah, so anyways, great game to my opponent Ramon, and let me know how you would build a Beastmen army against the Greenskins. I'd love to hear about it, and thanks for watching. That's that.